this is part 5 of the chapter 9 lectures. I will do my best to make this the end of the chapter 9 lectures. Okay, so we were talking about the 3 different types of muscle. I went over smooth muscle with you, so let's go to cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle is only found in the heart. Now, where smooth muscle is involuntary, contains only one nucleus and no striations. Cardiac muscle is also involuntary. That means we do not have voluntary control over our heart muscle contractions. The cardiac muscle does have striations, but it still only has one nucleus per cell. Skeletal muscle cells are elongated, very elongated in comparison with cardiac and smooth. Skeletal muscle is voluntary. These are the muscles we have voluntary control over. We decide if we want to move them or not. And these are the muscles that are used to move. Cardiac muscle moves our heart, and smooth muscle moves materials internally within our body. But skeletal muscle causes our whole body to move. Skeletal muscle has many nuclei, multinucleated, and is striated. The functions of skeletal muscle, just skeletal muscle in general, are to support the body, movement, of course, help maintain a constant temperature. When your muscles cause you to shiver, you do that when you're cold, and it helps heat your body up. The more you move your muscles, the more body heat you generate. Cardiac muscle or skeletal muscle assists with the movement of cardiovascular and lymphatic vessels. In other words, your blood vessels and your lymphatic vessels. When skeletal muscle contracts, in other words, the more you move, the better your circulation is going to be. And another thing that skeletal muscle does is protect internal organs and contribute to joint stability. One example would be the rectus abdominis muscles of your abdomen. Rectus abdominis. These are the muscles that are referred to as the six-pack muscles. But those muscles are going to protect your intestines. Okay, now I copied this from your study plan. And the reason I did is because there is a question where you have to know about type 2B skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle can either have slow twitch, meaning that the contractions take longer to happen, and this muscle is red. Or they can be fast twitch, which means the contractions happen really fast, but these are white. Okay, so if they're white, it means they don't have as much mitochondria and they don't have as much myoglobin, because myoglobin is a red pigment within our muscles. So to give you an example of a muscle that would be type 2B, anytime you do a weightlifting exercises that are powerlifting, you're just seeing how much you can lift 1 or maybe 2 times. And you're not even able to lift it more than that many times. It's a power lift needs a lot of power for a short period of time. And runners, if you run track, especially if you run sprints, like short distances, a sprint requires type 2B muscles. It requires a lot of power for a short period of time. Now, if you're a long distance runner, you're going to use more of your type 2A muscles, or your type 1 muscles. your type 2 muscles are all fast twitch, but it's type 2B in specific that are that have the least number of mitochondria and the least amount of myoglobin. So that's the white muscles, and we call them fast twitch. So that should help you answer the question that they have on your quiz about type 2B muscles. All right, now we're going to talk about bones. This is an example of a long bone. This is the humerus, which is your upper arm bone. And you can see that the ends of the bone are each called an epiphysis. And the shaft of the bone, the long part of the bone, is called the diaphysis. This is called a long bone because it's longer than it is wide. Inside of that long bone is bone that's filled with air holes called spongy bone, or sometimes called cancellous bone. And then you have the bone on the that forms the diaphysis. I don't see it labeled, but this bone right here, this bone that goes from here to here that forms the diaphysis, this is called compact bone, or I can't think of the other word. It's cancellous bone and cortical maybe. But anyway, most often people call it compact bone. Compact bone is does not have as many air spaces. It's a lot thicker and stronger. All right, so we have long bones that are longer than they are wide. These are the bones of our arms and our legs. Then we have short bones. These are the bones that form our wrist bones and our ankle bones. Flat bones, they don't have to be flat and straight. They just have to be flat. They have to be very, very thin. So the skull bones are flat bones, the ribs are flat bones, and then we have irregular bones like the vertebrae, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. They just have an irregular shape. You can't really describe them. Now, for compact bone, dense compact bone, that bone is organized in such a way that bone tissue doesn't leave any room for air holes. So it's organized into units called osteons. And in between the osteons, there will be bone tissue that forms in between there. So there's no air holes, no air spaces. The bone cells, which are shown kind of in pinkish purple here, are called osteocytes. And they get nutrients from the blood vessels here in the Haversian canal. That's why this is called the Haversian system. And then these little canals called canaliculi transport the blood and the nutrients and the oxygen to each osteocyte. So that's how the osteocytes get what they need and get rid of their waste. This is the skeleton. You do not have to know all of the components of the skeleton, but this is just for your information. But I am going to talk with you. Your classmate, Kylie, asked, well, she's in the synchronous class. So I've got two sections of Bio 112, and Kylie is in the synchronous class, and she asked a really good question, which I had a hard time explaining in class. I didn't know the exact answer. I knew what I thought, I kind of had an idea, but I really didn't know the exact answer. So she asked, we were talking about the regulation of calcium. Now remember that the parathyroid glands produce parathyroid hormone, and parathyroid hormone increases the calcium in your bones. So what it does is it causes cells called osteoclasts to break down bone tissue, and then take the calcium, remove calcium from bone, and remove the calcium from the bone, and it is reabsorbed into your blood. So that will raise your blood calcium levels. And then the thyroid hormone produces calcitonin, which does the opposite. If your blood calcium levels are too high, it will produce, the thyroid will produce calcitonin, and calcitonin will help to build bone, take the calcium from your blood and put it back into your bone. So it will rebuild bone tissue. Now, most of the time, the action of osteoclast, and the cells that do this are osteoblast. The osteoblast rebuild the bone tissue. So the action of the osteoblast will match the action of the osteoclast. And you're going to find this type of thing happening where bones grow. And a particular long bone is going to grow wider. It's pretty much going to grow wider. It's not going to keep growing in length after you become an adult, but it'll keep growing wider. So if we draw just a portion of the shaft, and I'm going to draw this kind of like that so you'll understand this is the bone marrow cavity, because it's a little bit more spongy bone than compact bone. So let's say we have the shaft of the bone here. Where growth is going to occur is here. The bone's going to get thicker to the outside. So osteoblasts are going to add bone matrix to the outside of the bone and make it wider. But as that happens, the marrow cavity gets wider too. So osteoclasts are going to remove bone from that marrow cavity. But once we reach adulthood, there are certain areas that are more prone to osteoclast removing bone as we get older, and especially people who have osteoporosis. And those areas tend to be the same areas that break in older people. And this is a vertebrae. And I know you can't see that very well. This is the body of the vertebrae. And as you can see, it has a lot of spongy bone in it. This is a side view, and then this is a bird's eye view. So what you have is here's the hole. I think this needs to just go like that. I'm sorry. But anyway, here's the hole that the spinal cord runs through. And then these are the bones. This is called the spinous process, and these are called the transverse processes. This is the one that sticks out and forms your backbone that you can feel through the skin of your back. You can see these little bumps. That's caused by the spinous process. But it is this part, the vertebral body, that tends to experience osteopenia, which is reduced bone mass. And in the femur, the hip bone, when somebody fractures a hip, this is the neck of the femur. It's called the neck. That tends to be what happens when you have a hip break. It's really this neck that's breaking. And you can see that the bone has holes in it. It's more spongy bone. It doesn't have as much protection from compact bone. So it does tend to be the areas that are weakened by osteoporosis. All right, now, integumentary system, skin, hair, nails, and glands. Eccrine sweat glands are sweat glands that are not associated with a hair follicle, and they produce watery sweat. They help to regulate body temperature, but the sweat they produce does not produce an odor. Then you have hair. You have a hair follicle. You have an erector pili muscle connected to the hair follicle, which causes your hair to stand on end and give you goosebumps. Sebaceous gland is an oil gland that's always associated with hair. And mammary glands are also glands that are part of the integumentary system.